Why are you not improving as a runner as much as you would like? What is it that you are not doing, or what is it that you are doing, causing this lack of progress? Well, almost always it's nothing huge. It doesn't often require an overhaul, it's usually a tweak, a small change, and it can make all the difference. And as I see it, there are about 10 hard truths limiting our progress that we may not want to hear, but we know we need to. This is the channel dedicated to unlocking your potential as a runner, so if you want more, consider subscribing and let's get on with the journey. Here's hard truth number 1.
And how about this for a hard truth? The first one. The reason that you might not be progressing as a runner is because you're not training like a professional. But let me explain. See, so many non-professional runners don't believe that they have the right to train like a professional runner, like you have to earn it somehow. But I'm not talking about running the speeds that they run, or even the volumes that they run in their sessions or over the week. That's not what we're talking about here. I like to think of it like this. Professionals are at the top, they're at the cutting edge of everything that is good about running, whether that be training theory, whether that be science or technology. They're there and they're using the best methods. They know what they're doing, and that's what we should do. We should aim to emulate professionals in the best way that we can, because if it doesn't work for them, they're not going to be pros for long, are they? Which leads me to point 2.
So off the back of that revelation, how about this for starters? Consistency is the number one thing applied by professional athletes that we can absolutely learn from. The easiest way of explaining it is, if you look at Eliud Kipchoge's training, it's pretty much the same week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. And there's no unbelievably crazy sessions where he pushes his body to the absolute limit and then can't train for the next few days. He favours consistency of approach, and that's something that us as amateurs may not adhere to. What tends to happen in our training pattern is that we get caught up in a load of new sessions that we've learned, something high intensity or tempo sessions, and we try and do those for a few weeks, getting very excited about it, and it can either lead to overuse injuries or just fatigue and knock us out of training for the next week or 2. Whereas pros favour doing similar things week in, week out with a gradual build to make sure that they keep training, because they know the key to their success, the key to major progression is staying consistent in the process, rather than any one banging session but then not being able to train for a week.
One thing that the pros do really well that we can quite often ignore or neglect is solid warm-ups, drills and good cool-downs. And this can really make a difference to a number of things. It can help enhance the quality of your sessions, the progress you can make, and avoid injury, which we all know is crucial. So this is something you should really think about building into your routine. Maybe not as important for the easy runs, but definitely when you're doing speed work or longer sessions, you can get so much more out of it and help yourself by building in a really good warm-up, getting your body ready for the session, and those drills before you begin can really boost and support your technique if that's something that you're keen to work on. And I think it's something we can all work on and improve.
Perhaps because we don't consider what we do at the level that we do it to be worthy of looking at to change this, but diet has a far bigger impact on our training than we think. Take me as an example. My diet isn't awful, but I do have a tendency to eat whatever I want whenever I want because I know I'll burn it off. But is this an effective way of looking after my body? Just because I can burn it off, does it mean it's doing me any good? Professionals have a different attitude. They have to. If they didn't, they might not be pros for long, or at least they won't fulfill their potential. What might actually surprise you is that pros don't eat a restricted diet. They just make subtly better choices than the majority of us. They replace white rice with brown rice, flavoured yogurt with plain yogurt, processed meat with unprocessed meat. You get the idea, and there's a video coming dedicated to the idea of the endurance diet. But in essence, we need to take a more mindful approach to our diet rather than mindlessly eating. I look at it this way. Would you fill up your car with vegetable oil? No, it's the engine and it needs the right fuel to run. And it's not as dramatic as that with the human body, obviously, because most fuel you put in will allow the body to function. But wouldn't you rather it function at its very best? See what you're really capable of. Diet is the way of unlocking this.
One area I've always admired pro athletes, and where I think they really excel, is that pro athletes are kinder to themselves than the average amateur athlete, most of us. And what I mean by that is actually it's a number of things. first in session, a single session, whether it be a base run or whether it be an interval session, if it didn't go your way, then professional athletes are like, okay, well, they zoom out and they see the bigger picture. Their life, their training, their performance is not defined by one single session. But also results when they run a race, when they do something and they want to do well. If you look at Ailish McColgan, how she's interviewed after the World, she just says, well, I tried my hardest, wasn't my day. And then she comes back and wins Commonwealth gold. And I know the standard of the field is slightly different, but you can only beat what's in front of you. And it even comes down to sessions, as in, you miss a session, we tend to be quite hard on ourselves. Why did we miss that? We should have made it happen. Athletes have that approach where they can miss a session. They don't want to miss a session, but they will make the next session. So they're just kind of overall to themselves, I believe, than us amateurs.
Yes, you knew it. Here it is, the thing we bang on about the most, strength and conditioning. Now I know what you're thinking, it's boring, it's not running, it's a waste of my time. Let me put it in the simplest terms I can. Do you want to be able to train well into old age? Strength and conditioning. Do you want to recover faster? Strength and conditioning. Do you want to avoid injuries? Strength and conditioning. Do you want to run faster with better technique or run further? Guess what? Strength and conditioning. It's been a battle for me for the last 10 years. I've tried everything, but the key here is I've never given up. I've struggled, yes, but I've never stopped trying to find the best way for me. So play around and don't give up. Maybe 1 or 2 big sessions a week of 40 minutes to an hour will work for you. Or how about lots of smaller sessions of 10 to 20 minutes but more regularly? Yoga, Pilates, weights, body weights. There is an unbelievable range of options that can help. You just have to find out what works for you, because you can get away with neglecting it for months. You can get away with neglecting it for years. But for life, I don't think so. Answer this question in the comments while you listen to this. I mean this absolutely. How many hours of sleep do you get per night? Because this is one of the major flaws I see in people's training that the professionals prioritize, and that is your sleep, or actually just in a wider sense, your recovery. As in, how many hours of sleep do you get per night? And do you take a day off in the week? Do you have recovery weeks built into your training cycle? Because although the science says that there is no actual magic number of hours you need to get for sleep, we all have an individual sleep need. For some people it's 7 hours, for some people it's 10 hours, and only you know. But if you're undersleeping, if you're not sleeping enough, then you're stopping the recovery, the repair, the rebuild process that happens whilst you're sleeping and training. And it's something professional athletes absolutely prioritise, because they know they can't do anything off of a wobbly base with lack of sleep and recovery. They have to prioritise that. Everything else is built on top, and it's where we may fall down. So you really need to ask yourself honestly, do I recover enough? That could mean sleep, but it could be having days off in the week, and it could be meaning having recovery weeks. That's up to you, but do you rest or recover enough? One of the biggest differences between us and the pros is how little we lean into our own weaknesses. I'm going to use triathlon to highlight this point. In fact, I'm going to use me. In triathlon, running is my secret weapon. I'm okay in the swim and bike, but I excel on the run. So in the first few years of racing, I focused on my secret weapon. I enjoyed it, and I did okay. But it wasn't my weakness, and the moment I realised this, and realised this is where the pros excel, it all changed. I put more time in on the swim, but even more on the bike, and my performances dramatically improved. In fact, even my running improved. I leaned into my weaknesses like the pros do, and yes, it might not be as enjoyable, but let me tell you, feeling like you're fulfilling your potential makes it more enjoyable. It makes it all worth it. Runners often do what's comfortable and enjoyable too. You like running easy and long? Let me guess, that's what you do. A lot. Or you like the feeling of pushing yourself. I bet you do a lot of track or hard sessions. And I'm not criticising, because we've all been there. But if you want to see real progress, you lean into your weakness. I mean, even if it's the fact that you pick up injuries, your weakness might be a lack of strength and conditioning, or not warming up properly, or cooling down. There are always aspects of our running and training we can improve. We just have to want to. So find your weakness and lean in and watch the improvements happen.
Really good one to take note of is to be aware of your body and listen to it and respond to what it's telling you. I think many amateur runners, and I put myself in this in the past and things I've done, can try and push through niggles or discomfort, potential injuries, because they don't want to lose the progress they've made, and they think, oh, I just want to push on through, it'll be okay. And sometimes it's not okay, and you can actually be doing more long-term damage and pushing yourself right back. So pro athletes are really good at this. They know if something isn't right, they will stop their training, take a rest and take a step back, and then in the long run that enables them to move forwards because they can heal and fix those little niggles really, really quickly. Ben taught me something which I use, which is if I feel a niggle, for me in the past it's been my knee, he'll say, right, if it gets above a 3 out of 10 on the discomfort scale, stop immediately. So if it feels like a 4 out of 10, stop running and come home, because even just taking that little bit of time to get that fixed will help you get to where you want to be in good shape. So be sensible.
And number 10, maybe the hardest truth for us to swallow as amateur athletes in comparison to professional athletes, is that professional athletes, almost all of them, not all, but almost all, have a coach. Now, I know what you're thinking, I'm an amateur athlete, I'm not at that level where I can have a coach, or I'm not at that level where I can afford a coach. But there are so many different forms of coaching nowadays that it is easily accessible if you want to. From the NHS's Beginner to 5K app, to YouTubers that put out completely free training plans for every distance that you can imagine, there is a way that you can be coached without necessarily financially having to commit, and it can be for all levels of runner. It doesn't have to be for someone that's established and is trying to run a PB or anything like that. It could be for any level of runner. And if this video brought you some value, then I know that this video is going to bring you some value too. It's the 10 hard truths of running a marathon when you're slightly older. And if you want to follow the journey, then consider subscribing, but no hard sell from us. But there's some big news coming. See you Wednesday.